The Marian Conspiracy, the sixth Doctor Who Big Finish audio release, first released in 4 parts across CD, cassette and download on the 12th of March 2000. This was also the introduction story for the 6th Doctor's Big Finish companion, Dr. Evelyn Smythe, voiced by Maggie Stables. Now, Evelyn Smythe in this story is giving a lecture on Tudor history when she is suddenly interrupted by the 6th Doctor, voiced once again by Colin Baker. And Evelyn is the kind of person who doesn't really suffer fools. Like, she hears the Doctor's machinery beeping and she goes, "Can't you just stop that?" And it's like, well, no, not really, because it turns out there's some kind of paradox or event happening in this room. So eventually she just sends all of her students home until they can work it out. Because it turns out there's actually something wrong with Evelyn. Like, she is somewhat becoming a paradox and is fading in and out of existence. Because something has happened in the past, and she and the Doctor have to travel back in time to Tudor history to try and figure out what's gone wrong, with Evelyn insisting on coming along when she finds out they're going to Tudor history, and she does have a particular passion for it. They believe they're heading for 1558, during the reign of Elizabeth I, only for them to instead arrive in 1555, where they don't exactly get off to a good start, when the Doctor is called to the Tower of London to see the Queen, and Evelyn ends up going to a pub run by a man named John Wilson, voiced by Gary Russell. And they find out that Queen Elizabeth isn't Queen yet. This is 1555, and Mary is still the Queen. So, safe to say, when Evelyn raised their glass to say, "A toast to Queen Bess," everyone just looks at her like, no, we don't roll like that here. And as the Doctor gets called in to help with, medical-wise, with Queen Mary I, voiced by Anna Ruddin, they have to deal with the world of scandals and plots as they find themselves in the middle of a Protestant plot to place Elizabeth onto the throne of England. Now, I personally was not that big aware of plots in general with the royal family, except for the big one, which was the gunpowder plot with James I, which was that they planned to blow up Parliament, kill the king, and then place a new Catholic monarch onto the throne. Turns out, though, the Protestants were trying that as well, as they end up finding along the way they meet a load of different characters, including the Queen's Lady-in-Waiting, Lady Sarah Whiteside, voiced by Joe Castleton, the Reverend Thomas Smith, voiced by Nicholas Pegg, a kind of right-hand man for Mary named Francois de Noailles, voiced by Barnaby Edwards, and I probably mispronounced that name, and I apologise, George Crowe, voiced by Sean Jackson, and William Leaf, voiced by Jez Fielder. So they have to try and find a way of putting history back on track, restoring Evelyn to full health, but in the process, some of the things they do end up doing along the way do make things a little more tricky. Now, this isn't the first story I've heard that does actually involve Evelyn as a character. I mean, I've listened to The Spectre of Lanyon Moore, The Apocalypse Element, and Jubilee, all stories that did also involve her. But this was her introduction story, and she definitely is, I think, one of my favourite kind of companions in Who. Like, I do have my favourites for each Doctor. Like, I'd say for the first Doctor, my favourite's probably Susan Foreman. For the second Doctor, Jamie McCrimmon. For the third, Joe Grant. But I think, while I do like Bonnie Langford as Mel and Nicola Bryant as Perry, I think for the sixth Doctor, Evelyn has become one of my favourite companions in the Whoniverse. I mean, she's 55, but she's full of fighting spirit, but then she does also have a softer side in that she does love cocoa and does love chocolate. As she said to the Doctor that she'll often make chocolate cakes for some of her students, or if people really just need to pick me up, she will make them a chocolate cake. And when they have to head off for Tudor England, she says to him, "Well, I must pack some cocoa." I mean, cocoa wasn't introduced in England until, like, the 1600s, so I must have a flask of the stuff or a small tin of this stuff before we go. It's like, really? Really? That's what you're concerned about? It's like, well, yes. I mean, where else am I going to get cocoa? To which, when they get to Tudor England, and she is kind of holed up in a room with some of the other conspirators, she goes, you know what? Do you have any milk on that? Well, yes, ma'am. We've got a cow in the next room. It's like, oh, never mind. We'll do it with water. It's like, what? Get me some hot water, will you? Like, well, you're not drinking the water, are you? Because at this point in history, all water came from the Thames, and fair to say it was filthy. So it's like, that doesn't matter so much. As long as we heat it up, that'll kill all the bacteria, and when they taste it, like, it's a children's drink. It's overwhelmingly sweet. But, yeah, you're going to like it. Well, I'll stick to beer, thank you. But, yeah, I do feel is a great introduction story for Evelyn as a companion, and I will admit it is mostly historical based. I mean, actually, I think it's entirely historical based. I mean, there's no aliens, there's no kind of secret technology except for the technology that the Doctor gives to Evelyn to kind of keep her solid while they're in Tudor England. But then it does also show a rare kind of side to history and what was going on behind closed doors with Mary. And even some of the politics of the time, like Evelyn says to some of the plotters, like, well, we can't really do much because Mary's pregnant. It's like, yeah, but she's not pregnant. And that does lead to a bit of a plot point of, like, the men wouldn't have killed a pregnant woman, but now that they know she isn't pregnant, they're all too happy to poison her, which is a sad kind of product of the times. But overall, I think the Marian conspiracy is a great Doctor Who story and a great one to introduce Evelyn with. One of my favourite companions in expanded New Who, and this was her first go-round. To which, as the story nears its end, well, the Doctor does just intend to drop Evelyn back home in Sheffield in 2000. She says, well, I'm not going home. I mean, I'm a history teacher. I mean, and you have a time machine. When else am I going to get this opportunity? And it's like, well, you know what? Why don't we go somewhere where there's chocolate? I mean, why not Mexico or something? It's like, I'm not sure I know that many places that have chocolate. It's like, well, if we do go somewhere where there's chocolate, maybe I could make you one of my chocolate cakes. My famous chocolate cakes. It's like, well, it couldn't hurt to keep you around just for a little while. Let's hope I don't regret this. So, there we go. There's my quick thoughts on the Marian conspiracy and the introduction to one of my favourite companions in Expanded Whoniverse. What are your thoughts on the Marian conspiracy? Let me know down in the comments. And until next time, see ya.